Before we jump into today's show, the month of May is almost over, and we've got some work to do to catch up and pass the Ravens rundown in subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to the channel yet and you hate the Baltimore Ravens, help us defeat the Ravens rundown. What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, handing out some AFC North predictions and superlatives. I thought as we kind of enter the, slow days of the offseason with OTAs practices going in frequently, we could take some time to run through some superlatives for the AFC North. So, with that being said, I would like to start things off by handing our first superlative to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who win the award for most likely to bench their starting quarterback. I think if you look at all four of these teams here, and even if it's not just AFC North focused, the Steelers are definitely a candidate to bench Russell Wilson in favor of Justin Fields. There is some level of interest from Pittsburgh for Justin Fields. Otherwise, they wouldn't just trade for him. So clearly there is something that has caught the coach's eye. And as for Russell Wilson, his 2-year stint in Denver, it was not good. Let's just address that head on. It was filled with losses, which that's not completely on Russell Wilson. There are 21 other starters on the field. But ultimately, even the stats, last year's maybe a little bit misleading. You see 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. You think, that looks like a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback to me. But to me, it's the yards, his inability to push the ball down the field. And I know in Pittsburgh, they don't ask their quarterbacks to do that, and they've kind of gotten by not doing that. But at the same time, have they? This is the biggest reasoning that Steelers have for how Russell Wilson's a perfect fit in Pittsburgh. Our defense is so good, we just need an average quarterback, and we can be a really strong team. And there's some truth to that, but also, I feel like they are just trying to make the best of the mediocre situation that they have themselves in. Look at the last 4 week 1 starting quarterbacks for Pittsburgh, especially this run right here of the end of Big Ben and then Mitch and Kenny Pickett. Sure, if you had an average quarterback play here, maybe you have a better end of the season result, but does anyone else feel like the Steelers are walking on thin ice of every year just praying their defense shows up? And as long as the quarterback is just mediocre with Mike Tomlin, they'll find a way to eke out 9-10 wins. Is that the goal? I know you can't find a superstar quarterback every single offseason, but to me, this situation here kind of reminds me of the Indianapolis Colts. And remember how they floated by, going different QB year to year, and then finally it all caught up to them when they got Matt Ryan, who I think his final year in Atlanta was not very far off from Russell Wilson's 2023 season in Denver. And at a certain point, putting in a new starting quarterback, asking the wide receivers, the running backs, the offensive line to get accustomed to a new QB, and banking on the defense to show up every single week, it's just too difficult to sustain. So maybe this would have worked a few years ago in Pittsburgh, but I think this is the year where ultimately it starts to crumble and Rome starts to fall. And that's where you could see Pittsburgh decide, let's bench Russell Wilson. We only signed him to a 1-year contract because it was such a cheap deal. And let's see if Justin Fields could provide a spark and maybe actually be a long-term plan for us. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, not just in a high school sense of a superlative, I genuinely do believe they are going to bench Russell Wilson and turn to Justin Fields at some point in 2024. All right, Ravens are up next here with the award being most likely to not have a 1,000-yard wide receiver. Now, when I handed out this superlative to them, I forgot that Marquise Brown had sneakily had a 1,000-plus yard year back in 2021. But this is a franchise that has been plagued at the wide receiver position. No team has invested more in draft capital at wide receivers than the Baltimore Ravens the last decade. And they have not seen it pay off very well for them. Now, they do have some really young, good talent. I'm a big fan of Zay Flowers. Was a huge fan of him fumbling in the AFC championship game. But I do think Zay Flowers has a really high ceiling. And Rashad Bateman, to me, I don't understand what the Ravens think they have in him to warrant a 1-year contract extension. And then Nelson Aguilar is cheeks. So to me, it comes down to one man only, Zay Flowers. Can he get 1,000 yards? And I know after an 858-yard rookie season, he may feel destined to do so. But let me be your annual reminder of not all rookies that have strong years follow it up with better sophomore campaigns. There is a long list of examples of guys that look poised to have a huge breakout sophomore year, and then it doesn't happen. And to me, I feel like that could be something that happens to Zay Flowers and an offense that's not designed to pass the ball enough where a receiver could get 1,000 yards just by showing up. It's not like the Ravens are going to be top 5, top 10 in pass attempts this upcoming season. So I don't think they have a 1,000-yard guy on their team. Bengals, similar-ish. They get the most likely to piss off their wide receivers because they've already done that. Credit to Cincinnati for having no money and not liking paying their players, although there is some falseness to that statement because they have actually dished out a lot of cash the last few seasons, but a good chunk of that goes to Joe Burrow. But Bengals OTAs opened up on Tuesday as we filmed this live show, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are not in attendance. And that's not ideal, right? Does that mean that the Bengals are going to get off to a bad start this year? No, Joe Burrow does not need to develop a connection with any one of these players. He's had plenty of time to do that. But this does give you a rough idea as to the level of seriousness these two players have in their contract disputes. Let's start with Jamar Chase. He is looking to become the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind that is the number he is seeking. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they both got recent contract extensions, and Jamar Chase has been a top 5 receiver in football the last 3 years since entering the league, and he wants to be paid more than just top 5. He wants to be number 1. I think he probably wants to get $32.1 million. Can the Bengals swing that? I mean, this is a franchise that doesn't have a business, right? It's not like the Haslams with Flying J and a whole lot more gas stations, right? This is a family-run business that their income is the Cincinnati Bengals, which means when you sign a massive contract to a player or give a massive contract to a player with a lot of guaranteed money in it, you have to have a certain amount of that guaranteed money, I think it's 75%, set aside within the first year. And there's a realistic chance the Bengals are penny pinching. I mean, they did add a licensing agreement to brand their stadium, to Paycor Stadium, to try and scrape together enough pennies and dollars to get enough guaranteed money for Jamar Chase after giving so much to Joe Burrow. So I think the Bengals ultimately will extend Jamar Chase. It's just not going to happen anytime soon-ish. Like, to me, I just think they literally need time to make money to then pay Jamar Chase. I think that's where the Bengals are at. As for T. Higgins, this could get murky. T. Higgins knows he's not going to become a top 5 highest paid receiver in football. My guess is he kind of wants to get near or probably above what Michael Pittman got from the Indianapolis Colts. Now, we can go back to last month where T. Higgins did an interview with the local Fox station, and he said, "We'll see when it came to playing this year. I do anticipate playing for the Bengals in 2024. I've grown a love for Cincy that I didn't think I would. Looking forward to it." So there is clearly some level of motivation from T. Higgins to try and repair this relationship, although he requested a trade not too long ago. But I think that's just your usual, hey, negotiating tactic to get a better deal done. But ultimately, I do not see a way the Bengals pay both of these wide receivers. And I would think if the Bengals were wise, they would try to get something out of T. Higgins before he walks in NFL free agency. So for that reason, I think you could see a possible in-season trade for T. Higgins. I don't think the Bengals move on from him before the season opens up. They're going to want to keep the band together and try to put together a good Super Bowl run. And listen, they're very capable of that, right? They were in the Super Bowl not too long ago, and it's not like their roster has had dramatic change since then. They still have a lot of their core players. But if things aren't going super well at the beginning of the year and a team dangles a first or a second round pick in front of them for T. Higgins, they may take them up on that. Now, before we get to the next two superlatives, or the last one I should say for the Browns, if you want to get this awesome Cleveland Browns polo with Brownie the Elf on it, go to chatsports.com/CLE polo. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. You guys know I love wearing my polos on the show. So if you want to get a Browns polo like me, chatsports.com/CLE polo. As for the Browns, they're superlative. Most likely to have a comeback player of the year award winner. The more I talk about Nick Chubb, the more excited I get for what his return could be. Like, go back to January, and of course, the further we've gotten away from the surgery date, the more information we've had, and then we can make a better opinion and assessment for Nick Chubb this year. But you go back to January, and I was very timid about what Chubb looked like this upcoming season, given the severity of the knee injury and the age and the contract situation. But the contract situation is not a problem anymore. They resolved that. The age is not changing, but the knee injury, we've seen good progress in rehab from the leakage that we've gotten out of the Browns over the last few months. And I think Nick Chubb could definitely be a candidate, and a strong one, to an NFL comeback player of the year. I'll remind you of the timeline for when he got injured, September 18th in Pittsburgh against the Steelers, to his first and second surgery, September 29th, and then November 14th. Then he comes out to the home game against Pittsburgh, where the Browns won 13-10. DTR at quarterback. He is spotted on crutches coming out 5 days after getting surgery. Then he's at the Rams game in LA, and Andrew Berry shared a story about how Nick Chubb was walking around the suite without crutches. And then sometime around April 13th, Andrew Berry revealed that Nick Chubb began running on land. So him running by April 13th, with the season opening up early in September, even if Chubb were to miss 1 or 2 games, I mean, look at last year's NFL Comeback Player of the Year winner. Joe Flacco did not have to play the whole year to win the award. So I think Chubb could very well miss the first few weeks of the season and still be in contention. Now, when you look at the previous NFL Comeback Player of the Year winners, there's definitely a trend. 6 straight quarterbacks have won the award. But of those 6 straight quarterbacks, Burrow, Alex Smith, Andrew Luck, they all won it coming off a major injury, just like Nick Chubb. And then you go back before that, Keenan Allen in 2016, he only played 1 game for the Chargers. Wins it the next year. Jordy Nelson missed the entire 2015 season. That's when America learned you do not do fantasy football drafts in early August because he tore his ACL in preseason. Eric Berry, of course, had so many unfortunate issues and injuries off the field and battled cancer and got back on the field. But he won it in 2015 after missing time in 2014. Gronk in 2014 won it after missing a good chunk of the 2013 season. So you can see that there is a trend of suffer a major injury, be a superstar caliber player, bounce back well the next year. You're a shoo-in for the award. And of course, the Browns cleaned up at the NFL award ceremony this past season. Myles Garrett won Defensive Player of the Year. Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year. Stefanski won Coach of the Year. Jim Schwartz won Assistant Coach of the Year. So who is Nick Chubb competing with for this Comeback Player of the Year? If you just look at it through the lens of notable guys coming off major injuries, there are some big names out there. One is his own teammate, Deshaun Watson. If Watson puts together a top 3 quarterback season, he'll probably be the first one to get it because quarterbacks always have the edge over every other position. Then there's Aaron Rodgers, who is probably the most likely to just because of the name notoriety and how early he got injured into his Jets career, just 4 snaps in. Burrow I tossed down there. Same for Anthony Richardson, although I don't think a guy who got injured his rookie year should be able to win it because come back means we knew what you were before. Daniel Jones, I'd be shocked if he won it. Kirk Cousins with the Falcons, he's definitely a candidate. Same for Justin Herbert, although he got hurt so late last year. I feel like the injury element shouldn't be a comeback-worthy story because he played so much of 2023. Nick Chubb, Mike Williams and Trevon Diggs are other guys to keep an eye on. So let me know. Will Nick Chubb win Comeback Player of the Year? Give me a yes or give me a no down in the comments section. I think he will. Do I have my Browns blinders on right now? Absolutely. I can't see a damn thing. But I do think Nick Chubb is a good enough athlete, and that's downplaying it dramatically, to have a really remarkable comeback story. And if he looks like anything close to what Nick Chubb we all know and love looked like for 2018, from 2018 to 2023, then I think he's going to be a really good candidate to win the award. All right, we're going to bring on producer Trizzy Trace here to pick a card in just a moment, but at the end of the video, love to pick a card, get you guys involved and on screen. So if you've never gotten this far in the video before, get in the comment section right now. Just drop a random card or a club. I don't care. And we'll see if we get it right.
I'm going 7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds. I'm going to go with 2 of spades. King of hearts. King of hearts. All right. That will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off, and we're going to see you all later with more Browns news and rumors videos.